Hey.
Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit about some groups and how to get them working in Canvas today. And I just wanted to see, make sure I got everything. Yep, we're good. All right. So we have two people here, Wesley and Forrest, who will answer any questions that you may have in the chat. We, of course, are recording this, and we will share with you the slide deck as well as the recording. So I'm going to turn on my captions and move on. So we're going to talk about setting up groups, a group set versus a group, then managing those groups, then self-sign up for groups, and then we're going to talk about automatic enrollment versus manual. We'll talk about going to the group homepage. We'll also talk about creating a group assignment or a group discussion. And then we're going to do some peer review possibilities with assignments and discussions, and then grading for groups. All right. So setting up groups. So two types of groups. You have student groups and group sets. What's the difference? So student groups can be either created by an instructor or a student and are self-organized. Group sets are groups that you can create to use for graded assignments. So I'm going to switch screens. Oh, maybe. If I can find my Zoom toolbar that seems to be hidden. So I think we're now in Canvas. So I'm going to click on my training course and wait. There we go. And then I'm going to click on people. And now I'm going to click on the plus up here where it says group set. Give it a name. Then I am going to allow self sign up. And when I check that, you also have other options. For example, if you have combined classes so that you have two sections in the same Canvas shell, and you only want the groups to be within that section, you can check that box. You can also decide how many groups you're going to have here. So I'm going to just say 3. And how many members in each group. 4. And then you also have the option to automatically assign a student group leader. And generally speaking, it's going to be the first person that signs in. So just kind of keep that in mind. Then you click Save. So you have now 3 groups, except I typed the word wrong. So that's a good reason. I'm glad I did that, because now you can also see that you can edit that and fix it. So if I want to edit, I'm going to go back over to my 3 dots. And I'm going to click on edit. And then I can correct my spelling error and click save. Now, notice that it did not change it here. If I want to change it there, I'm going to do this exact same thing. And now it's the way it should be. Also, I can add another group if I wanted to from here. So if I want to add, I can add another group. Maybe I want smaller groups, and I want more groups and with less people. You can always add that here. So now I'm going to give you an activity to do. I'm going to ask you to do exactly what I did in Canvas. So here is your first activity. You're going to go ahead to Canvas. You can do this in your sandbox too, even if it doesn't have students. So ignore that first part. Then you're going to click on Group Set, give it a name, and then you can decide whether or not it's self sign up or it's random or it's manual. And then when you do that, it's going to ask you how many groups. Then you can click Save. Then if you need to add an individual, add a group, then you can add a group. And you can also add, and as a suggestion, add the title of the course to your group name, and I'll show you why in just a bit. So I'll give you 3 minutes to do that. Ready, set, go. All right, let's keep on moving. So managing the groups. When you go back to Canvas and you're looking at your groups in your people area, again, your little kebab or the snowman or the boring 3 dots is a way for you to edit or do several other things. You can clone, delete, or randomly assign any students who haven't already been assigned, or edit, which I showed you. So I'm going to go back to Canvas. And we're back here, and now I can fix these other mistakes. Again, you can fix them right from each group area. You can also add a group. So if I wanted to add a next group, except I really can type. There we go. And again, save. So now we have 4 groups instead of 3. If you clone a group, it's going to keep everything that you have as far as the groups are concerned, including the students. So if I click on clone group set, it's going to call it exactly the same name plus clone. And then if I click submit, now I have 2 of these. But remember, you can always go back and edit the name of your group set. So if I wanted to name that something else, I could go back in here and then I would be able to change it. Now, also, if I uncheck allow for self sign up, now what that means is that students no longer have that option and I'm going to have to manually enroll them. Or I can also use the randomly assign. So if I click on randomly assign, it's going to give you a little warning and then you can click OK. So now you can see that each student, the 2 students that I had, were assigned to the first 2 groups. So you can clone the number of groups, change it from randomly assign to self sign up in case you wanted to keep the same number of groups rather than have to keep making a group set. So one of the things that we try to do is keep things consistent, and we try to keep that course menu consistent. So now I'm going to talk about from the student perspective, kind of what happens when you choose self sign up and how do your students find their way to sign up. So you're going to create a group set, decide on the number of groups and how many students, and click Save. Create an assignment with instructions on how to join the group, and then you're going to grab the URL from the group page and put it into the assignment. Now, if you see the image on your screen, that is actually what the students will see in their from their view when they click on the link that you provide to them. Notice that they see the little option over here on the right to join. So I'm going to go back over here. So this was a sample assignment from Diane Critchfield, and she was wondering how to do this without having the people option available and only letting the students see the group option. So she gave them the instructions and then put the link inside the join group here. And that is the link that you need. So let's go back over to Canvas. So I'm going to click on assignment and we'll give it a name, subtitle type. Blah, 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 hit the point. All right, so I've got all that information, but now I need the link from the group page. So I'm going to go over here. And then, yes, I have Canvas open in 2 tabs, works beautifully. Click on my training course, click on people, maybe, there we go. And this group is, so as you can see here, the Star Wars fans, this is a self sign up. If you go up here to the top and you copy the link and go back here, highlight the text, and click Done. So now you have that link that they can click on to get to the page. Of course, it is upload. Now, when I clicked on group assignment, you see that there are now several other options. We're going to talk about those a little bit in a minute. So quickly review. We created an assignment. We gave it some instructions. We got the link from the tab that we wanted the signups on. And then we put it in as an external link and pasted the URL right in there. So I want you to see if you can create a group set and find that URL and see if you can get the URL copied and then into the assignment. Now, neat little trick, if you are in Firefox or Chrome and you need to open a second tab of Canvas, if you right-click on Dashboard, it will give you the option to open the link in a new tab, and then you can have Canvas open in 2 places and not 1. Okay, so I'll give you a couple minutes, 3, and then we will keep on moving. Ready, set, go. All right. So this is just a little bit of a review, automatic versus manual. So again, when you were choosing to make the group, you had the option to create a group with either self-assign, or you could have them students automatically assigned, and basically Canvas, after you decided how many groups, would evenly split your class. Or you can use the randomly assign, which is the same thing. It's just in a different step of the process. So let me pop back over to, so here we are. And if I click on group set, and I'll just call this, so you can see that you have the option to split the group students into a certain number of groups, and then or you can decide to let Canvas split the students evenly into its own number of groups, choosing how many students you wanted in a group. Or you can create them completely manually. So I'm going to choose manually and click save. So now there are no groups. I have a group set, but there are no groups. So to do that, you can click on group, and again, the reason that I gave you a tip on adding the title of your course to your group names, I'll show you in just a second why. And I can create a second group. Again, if this, if you're doing something very specific, this would be the easiest way to do it. However, you can always ask Canvas to create the groups for you, and then you could just edit the names of them rather than creating each individual group manually. So once you've done that, you have no students here. So I could choose the randomly assign again, or I can drag and drop. So I could grab Terry and drop her in group 1, and grab Forrest and drop him in group 2. Hope it didn't hurt too bad. So that's one way you can do groups. So you have self-assign, you have automatic assign, you have manual assign, and then of course you can always, if I went back and took Forrest out of that group and I clicked on the plus, I could actually add him to a group that way. So you have a couple ways to add students. You can again do it simply by clicking on randomly assign. You can make your own groups, you can drag and drop, or you can click on the plus. So once you've done all of that, then you're going to want to be able to tell your students what they have access to in their group. So to do that, I'm going to take you to the group homepage. So here we are still on the group page. I'm going to click on the kebab, and then I'm going to click on visit group homepage. So here we are in the group. Notice that there is an edit group option. That means they can change the title. They can post their own announcements. They can create their own pages. They can see who is in their group. They can have their own discussions. They can share files, and they can do collaborations. Collaborations, Google Docs. So they can do all of those things within their group. You as the instructor can switch between groups by going to the top of the menu and looking, and then clicking on switch group. So that lets you visit group homepages without going back to the people area of your Canvas. So you can visit the group homepages by clicking on the switch group at the top and clicking on the arrow. However, this is where a lot of people seem to get lost. Now, from here, if you want to go back to your course, you're going to use the breadcrumbs at the top in order to do that. So this is the title of my course. So I know if I click on this, it will take me back to the home page. So again, I went to People. And then I went to any group. And then I clicked on the 3 dots. And then I got to the group homepage for the first group. If I want to switch groups, I can do that. And I can do that as many times as I need to. So if I click on discussions, so now I'm in discussions area, but now if you notice at the top, the title of the course is now gone. It's not really. So if I click on these 3 lines, actually if I go back to the first one, then the breadcrumb shows up. So if you go to any other place other than the home page, you're going to have to click on either home in order to get back to your breadcrumb to take you back to your Canvas course as the instructor. So I'm going to pop into student view for just, actually no, I need to check something first.
Paige, do you want me to show off what the groups look like since I'm in a couple of them?
Let me see. Yeah, maybe in just a second. Hold on. You can, or if you're there yet or not.
Yep, I'm there.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and see if you can use the self sign up link in the first module.
Oh, I was going to do the global groups. The reason why you made sure to name it the way you named it.
Oh, okay, we'll get there.
Oh,
Pause
okay.
on that in that case.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
Yep. All right. So group homepage allows you to look at the home, announcements, pages, people, discussion.
Paige, we're on your desktop.
You're on my desktop? Oh, okie dokie. How about that one? Ta-da!
There you go.
Okay. So from the group homepage, you can change the name of the group. You can post announcements, students can, pages, people, discussions, files, and collaborations. So those are all options for students once they get into their group. So now I'm actually going to have Forrest demonstrate the self sign up because I know he's a student in my class. So Forrest, you should be able to share now. So it should be in the very first module. Group, yeah, the last one. And Forrest, I think because we have admin rights, it doesn't look exactly like the students will see it, but it does work, and it does allow you to not have to worry about turning the people option on in your menu.
So I've just been talking away and realized that you guys couldn't hear me.
No,
Yeah,
you were
so
on mute.
so my administrator options are overriding this. I don't have a fast way to do this.
Nope, I don't either. So we're going to keep on moving. All right, so creating the assignment. So I showed you this briefly. Again, the group assignment can be, you have to make the groups first, and then either the assignment or a discussion. You can also choose whether or not you want to grade as a group, which means everybody gets the same grade, or grade each student individually. So let's go do a discussion. So here we are in discussions, and I'm going to click on create new discussion. And the key to a group discussion is when you click on that, it's going to ask you to select a group set. So you can decide which of your groups. You can also create a new group from here. And again, you're going to want to make sure you pick all your options. Specifically allow further replies. So points possible, assign to everyone, save and publish. Now, notice that it did not ask me about grading. So for a group discussion, I am going to assume that you will grade each student individually on their participation within the discussion. However, assignments are different. So from here, information, scroll, scroll, scroll. Here is the option to assign grades to each student individually. Now, the other thing, when you're asking your students to do this, they only need to submit one assignment. They do not need to submit however many students are in the group. So one assignment for the entire group. Then you can choose whether or not you want to give one grade for all or grade each student individually. You also notice that you can have them peer reviewed, even within groups, and your groups can have different due dates. So if you needed to, for example, this group, I'm going to take this off for a second, and then I want to click on this, it does let me assign different due dates for each group. So I could have group 1 is due Mondays, Tuesday, whatever, however you wanted to do it. So you can choose different dates for different groups. So group options. Choose a group assignment, then you can decide whether or not how you want to grade them. And then you can do a discussion. And when you do that, you can also choose peer reviews, and you can have a group discussion that does not have to be graded. You can also have them peer reviewed, and each group can have different due dates. So go ahead to your Canvas course, click on an assignment, make it a group assignment, decide how you're going to view the grades or how you're going to grade them, as in you're going to give one grade for the whole group and then each student would get that same grade, or are you going to grade each student individually? And then you can pick different due dates and then you can click save. So go test that out. and I'll see you in 3 minutes. Okay, so I was able to actually get into a real student view. So I'm going to pop back over. Now, you should be able to see a dashboard. So I'm going to click on this, and I'll click on modules, click on this group assignment. And when I click on this link, it opens a new tab and takes the student directly to the groups. And as you can see, it takes the student to all of the groups that are available. However, notice here, you can only pick the ones that were self-sign-up. So this is actually, so if a student clicks on join, it tells them that they have joined, and also it gives them the option to leave or switch. So please do keep in mind that students, once they have signed up for a group, could potentially switch to a different group. And from the student view, when they get to their group homepage, again, they have the ability to make their own announcements, make their own pages, create their own discussions, put files up, etc. So I just wanted to let you see exactly what the students would see. so that there was no confusion. Okie dokie. So now we're going to talk about peer review.
Hey, Paige.
Yeah.
Before we go to that, can you help me answer a question in the chat real fast?
Uh-huh.
But if you have a group assignment, but you're not doing it as a group assignment because you want everyone to submit something individually, can you still assign that to the groups for the due dates?
I will tell you that when I tried, setting due dates by groups was not an option unless I chose it as a group assignment.
Well, there we go.
There it is. Okay, so did that clarify the question in the chat? I'm not sure, I didn't read it, so I'm just going to assume that it did. All right, so what can be peer reviewed? Assignments or discussion boards. Again, it's just like the group, you have that option to check the box, and then you can either let Canvas assign the peer reviews, or you can decide who is peer reviewing which other students' work. You also have the option in assignments to allow peer reviewers to appear anonymous. So here are kind of a side-by-side comparison. So students can peer review before their own submission and manually assign, okay? So if a student becomes inactive, in other words, they drop your class or something happens, that student will no longer have an assigned peer reviewer. So you have to go back and fix that. The next thing you're going to see is the peer reviewer who is reviewing will be underneath the student's name, and a check mark will show up after the review is complete. I have pictures of this too. And you can send reminders to students to review and make sure they get their peer review done, or you can delete. On paper and no submission can only have manual peer reviews. So keep that in mind as well. So automatically assigning, Canvas may take up to an hour to do that. If an assignment is not submitted or it's after the due date, no automatic peer review will happen and you'll have to do it manually. You can assign peer reviews. Again, student name will show up with a check mark. You can send reminders, and students can actually peer review multiple things. And it also allows for intra-group peer reviews. So here are some screenshots of what that looks like. So here we see Emily Boone, and no one has been assigned. So you can give Emily Boone another submission so that she could grade it. If I did want to give one, so I click on the plus, then I'm going to get a drop down, and then I'm going to click add. And then as you can see, now the student who she's going to peer review will be under her name. Under that, you can see that there's a little exclamation point, which means it hasn't been done. And then you also have a little bell to send a reminder, or you have a trash can to delete. This is automatically assigning. Again, you can decide how many reviews per user, and then you can just hit the button and it automatically happens. You also have the option to allow intra-peer groups, peer reviews. So I'm not going to explain that to you. Basically, it means that it excludes the members of the same group when assigning. So there you go. If you don't check the box. If you check the box, then Canvas will allow people within the same group to peer review their group members' work. That's a lot of words. Okay, so peer review discussions. Here, it must be a graded discussion. And again, you have the option to manually or automatically assign peer reviews. So a group discussion does not have to be graded, but a peer review discussion does have to be graded. So, the one thing I do, and we get asked this a lot, is how do you award credit to the person who is doing the peer review? So there is no direct way to assess the peer reviewer. So suggestion is to create a second assignment with no submission and explain that the points are awarded for completion of the peer review, and then you could simply make it a complete or incomplete assignment for easy grading. So go ahead and start a new discussion or assignment, put in some details, select peer review, and you again can assign different dates for groups if you choose, and then click Save and Publish. All right, let's keep on going. The last thing we're going to talk about is grading in Speedgrader. So I'm going to share. All right, so grading in Speedgrader is going to be exactly like you would normally grade. Again, depending upon whether or not you choose to have individual grades or group grades. So once the student has submitted, of course, you get it on your to-do list, and then you're going to be able to see the option to grade. You can also send group feedback. And the other option that you're going to have is if you want to send, an individual student a specific comment, that's going to be slightly different. If you grade students individually, then you can send students a specific comment. However, if you grade as a group, that is not the case. So if I go to, my four-legged helper is being a little bit impatient. So this group assignment has multiple due dates. So I'm going to click here. And if I click on Speedgrader, and of course, if you don't have any users, you can't grade it anyway. So again, I'm not going to be able to show you that. But understand that the difference is when you're grading in Speedgrader, comments are tied to how you chose to give your students a grade, either as one grade for the group or individual. All right. So students should be assigned groups before the assignment is published. Grades and submissions will be affected if they weren't in a group at the time of the submission. If multiple due dates can apply, it's going to the student. Canvas will assign the latest due date to the student, and an individual student overrides a group. That's why I typed these things out. Group assignments cannot be used with external tools. And students in groups will only have one student who needs to submit to have the assignment graded, even if it's individual grades for each student. So that's a lot of stuff about groups. The key is when you're setting it up, make the decision on whether or not you're going to automatically assign the groups or allow self-sign-up. If you are going to allow self-sign-up, just remember that you have to make sure you get that URL and put it in your assignment for the students to find. And then also make sure you let your students know how to get to their groups as well. So you get to the student groups through your people area. Students actually get to their groups through a group area. So I'm going to show you that. Okay, so here we are back in the student account. And if you notice, the group option is right here. If I click on groups, this is where your students are going to find their groups. However, earlier on, I said the tip was to make sure you put the title of your course in your group name. That's because a student, let's just say this student was in 3 classes and in group 1 in 2 of the classes and group 3 in another class, and all it said was group 1. That would be very difficult for a student to know which class went with which group, because as you can see, it doesn't really tell you what class this Star Wars fan is in. So that is one of the reasons that I said it was kind of important to make sure you put the title of your class, or at least something in the title of the group, so that your students, when they click on their group icon, they'll know exactly which group they're supposed to go to. And finally, in the slide deck, I'm going to give you a ton of resources, and you can click on any of those links and it takes you to all of the Canvas guides that deal with anything to do with a group or anything to do with peer reviews. So thank you all for coming. And I see we had lots of questions in the chat, so I'm going to let Wesley and Forrest, if they want to unmute, they can and answer.